Okay. Hi, everyone. Today for this live, we are at Oshkosh EAA, and I have the pleasure to interview General John Dragon Teichert. So, John, hello, and that's welcome, and that's awesome that we are here together. Thank you so much.
Manu, I am so thrilled to be here with you and with your fans here. And thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. That's awesome. So I will start this podcast by reading a bit of John's bio. So it starts with after graduating from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Stanford University, John entered the US Air Force as an F-15E combat pilot. He would go on to serve as an F-22 test pilot and eventually lead as a commander of Joint Base Andrews, the commander of Edwards Air Force Base, and the nation's senior defense official in Iraq. John ended his service in the Air Force as the Assistant Deputy Undersecretary of the Air Force, International Affairs. During his career, he logged over 2,000 flight hours in 38 different aircraft types. Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
I feel very blessed to have had a really good career, and I'm really honored to be able to share some of that with your guests here today.
Yes, thank you so much. That is awesome. We are so happy. So, the first question I would like to ask you is what inspired you to pursue military aviation when you were back in high school? What made you choose?
I grew up in a loving family and a very patriotic family, but I wasn't quite sure how I would allow that to unfold in my life. And then, as an eighth grade boy in our little small theater in my small town in 1986, I watched Top Gun at the theater. And I made the decision after walking out of that movie as an eighth grade boy that I wanted to fly those type of planes as my career. And I started to research which service had the best planes. And at the time, the F-15E Strike Eagle was just coming out. And I decided that that's the best plane, and I wanted to fly that plane and join the United States Air Force in service to my country.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your service and for everything that you have done. That is wonderful. Sounds good. I want to ask you. So, what you joined the ROTC program at the time, and what made you choose to go to the to ROTC instead of the academy or anything like that?
I always wanted to go to a really good engineering school. And so I chose MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and I'm really glad that I did, especially because I met my wife there, who is also an Air Force ROTC. In fact, we took our oath of office together for the first time as 17-year-olds to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And now we've been married for 26 years, and our oldest daughter is an ROTC following in our footsteps. But I wanted to go to that engineering school. I wanted to study aerospace engineering, and I got to do that at this great location in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And that helped me have the academic background to eventually become a test pilot in the Air Force.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. If I may share, I also have a degree in aerospace engineering from France. So hopefully one day I will also be able to become a test pilot, and that would be awesome. And thank you so much for sharing.
Well, Manu, you are an inspiration to me. And as a dad of a daughter who's a rising senior in college who also wants to be a fighter pilot, that it is just an awesome opportunity to try to inspire the next generation to take my place in the place of those who are serving today and following in our footsteps as aviators in service to our country.
Yes, definitely. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you if back in the days during your degree or at UPT at the beginning, did you what were some challenges that you faced along the way, and how did you overcome them when you were younger?
So especially as a young person, it really is about figuring out how to allocate your time to achieve your goals. Because the one thing that everybody has the same, every single human being on the planet, is the amount of time that we have. And how we use or invest that time will determine then what we're able to accomplish in our lives and our careers. And especially as a young person, thinking about time as an invaluable commodity. that you invest in order to build up the opportunities and the experiences that allow you to do the things you want to do. It's more important than money. You can always make more money, but you can't produce more time. And it's important, especially as a young person, to start getting into a good routine of how you manage your time or invest your time so you can achieve the goals that you really want to achieve in your life.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you. I know some of the people who are looking at us, who are gonna watch the replay. I know we want, and me including, want to improve our skills of time management, or I often call it tasks management also. And do you have any advice for us about some tools or some apps that works well, or for your daughter? What do you say to your daughter? How is it?
Yeah, so I started doing what I'm about to share with you a little later in my career than I wish that I would have. But I sit down about every 2 weeks and I look at what are the priority areas in my life. And then I put goals in place to achieve each of those priority areas. And I started that as a test pilot in the F-22, where we were flying 6 days a week. We were really busy. I was a new husband and a relatively young dad. And I would get to the end of a day or a week or a month and know that I was busy, but not know what I accomplished. And I started to be more intentional about listing my priorities and then creating goals to achieve those priorities and then circling back on a regular basis to see how I'm doing. And I would get to the end of a 2-week period and I would never nail it, but I would be far more aligned with my priorities in my life than if I didn't have a process of establishing priorities and goals and then reflecting on them and assessing them and then adjusting as necessary. And I wish I would have started that before I was, say, 30 years old, and I would have been more productive in my younger years. But I'm glad that it's established now. And I talk to my kids about doing the same thing, and we review our priorities and goals together on occasion. And I would recommend that everybody on the podcast be deliberate about what are your priority areas in life, what are your goals to achieve them, and then how are you doing in a regular feedback cycle.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. And I would like to share something. Is it like close to like a feedback loop?
It is.
Actually,
it's exactly right.
yes.
If you don't have a closed loop system,
Yes.
then you can be inputting everything that you think is right. But if you're not assessing how it's going, then that open loop system is never going to get you to where you want to go. It needs to be closed loop, which includes that feedback or return loop.
Awesome, thank you. And I share that because, as we said earlier, so it is actually Astro who talked to me about the feedback loop the first time, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And it's so great that we can chat about it right now.
And I just want to share with your listeners, so we're here at Oshkosh EAA, and it's before the air show starts for the day here on Thursday, but we just had an unplanned flyby of the Air Force Thunderbird team. Astro, who she just mentioned, was the previous commanding officer of the Thunderbirds. He's a guy that I've been mentoring for 12 years or so, and I know has been an inspirational figure in your life. And it's great that he and I talk about the same type of pathway to success, maybe because we've talked a lot about it, he and I have, and I'm glad that both of us have been able to share it with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is awesome, and it is wonderful, and I hope I will be able to reach my goals with everything. But yeah, you know, it's a process with being born in France. It's just a process that takes time, but I have faith.
Yes.
And faith in the process, and let's see how it can go. But thank you so much.
Well, and I think something that's important for your listeners,
yes.
Not only did I grow up wanting to be a fighter pilot, I
Yes.
achieved that. I wanted to be a test pilot growing up. I
Yes.
achieved that, but I also wanted to be an astronaut.
Yes.
And I
Me too.
applied to be an astronaut, mid-level captain, and found out that one kidney stone I had in 1997 was permanently disqualifying. But here's the thing that your listeners have to understand, that while we are to set goals, it's wise to do so, that life is going to be a bunch of zigs and zags. You're never going to go from point A to point B. You should have goals. You should try to get there. But we have to have grace in our own lives to understand that some of those goals we'll achieve. Some maybe we won't, though we've done everything right, like in my case. But as long as we are doing right during the journey, then we will eventually be able to make the impact we want to make. And maybe we'll get to where we want to go, or maybe we'll find out we got somewhere better. And in my case, I didn't get to go be an astronaut, though it's a super cool job. I think that's the coolest job on the planet. But I got to do more leadership in my life and make an impact on people. And I have grown to like that far more than even being an astronaut in NASA. And so I just would encourage your listeners, try to achieve your goals, have a plan to achieve those goals, but realize that sometimes things will be different in life, and that's okay. Be good and impactful along the way, and you'll find out that life is more fulfilling, even if you don't achieve all of the goals that you set forth in your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure it's super helpful for everyone. Thank you. Can I ask you, do you have any advice for any young adult or younger man or female that would like to join to get hired by a National Guard unit? Would you have any advice for that, especially to fly fighters? Do you have any?
Yeah, so we had talked a little bit offline before we met here at Oshkosh, actually just a few minutes ago. But it is important to do the academic preparation in order to become an officer in the military in the United States. You need to have a college degree and be an officer to be a pilot. And whether that's active duty or Guard and Reserve, that you have 3 different pathways. You can go to the academy, you can go through ROTC, or you can go to OTS or OCS. And then that's the pathway then to take your degree to become an officer. And one of the biggest things that I recommend is that you talk to the recruiter, or you talk to their supervisors early on and let them know your goal. You're willing to work as hard as is necessary to achieve those goals, that you're going to be great at whatever it is that they are assigning you to do. But in the long run, help them to understand that you have longer range goals, and you probably will find that they will do what they can, especially if you're great at what you're doing as a worker for them, to help you achieve your goals. And so get your degree, go through one of those commissioning sources, be very clear in the process that you want to be a pilot, and whether that's active Guard or reserve, then that opens up the pathways to potentially then achieve that particular goal.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing. That's very good advice. Thank you. And I wanted to ask you, yes, it's good to try to do the best we can and just be the best we can be. But what about then the 3 other hundreds of applicants at the Guard units?
Yes.
What do we do about it, and how can we be the best among the 300 applicants?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. And so, of course, the prerequisite is the college degree. And so if you do well in that degree program, then that helps. I also think that when you write up your application for anything that you ever want to do in life, it's a combination of things. You want to explain to the hiring authority why you are interested and have passion in doing that thing. You want to help them to understand that you are uniquely qualified to do that thing, and it would be good for them to hire you. And hiring authorities are looking for someone with skill and passion to do something, and then that would be a good fit of help to them. And so when you're applying for something like a pilot program for the National Guard or whatever it may be, help them to understand those things, why you desire it with all of your heart, why it would be good for them to hire you based on your background and your interests and skills. And then they will sense that passion jumping off the page of your application and are far more likely then to hire you because they see you being a part of their team.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I hope that people will reach their goals, and that would be awesome. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, either a person who influenced you or mentored you again at the beginning, and what do you think of a support system, and also for people who don't really have family family who are in aviation, or a family who is abroad. What do you think about that?
So Manu, I think you demonstrate perfectly what I'm about to say, and it's this, that she and I didn't know each other except for you reaching out on LinkedIn, and now we're here talking at Oshkosh. That's a great example that I think older people like me want to see younger people succeed. to take our place in whatever it is that we are doing, that we've poured our lives into. And so don't be embarrassed, or don't be nervous, or don't be afraid to reach out to people, even if it's a blind outreach on social media, and just ask some basic questions about how you can proceed towards your goals and maybe how that person can help you. And I think you've modeled that brilliantly. And then we all realize that we are the sum total of what people have done to invest in us. And I've had some key people in high school, in college, in ROTC, in my first units that have been intentional about investing in me. And that investment is paying dividends now, decades later, because they took the time to invest in me. And people like me are just looking for people to invest in. And so don't be nervous or afraid. Reach out like you did, and you never know what's going to happen. In fact, I was just talking to somebody at lunch. I was sitting down with Victoria Yeager, Chuck Yeager's widow, and the people across the table were talking about how they made a casual ask one day for Chuck Yeager to come and speak at an event. And they thought that he would say no, and he ended up saying yes. And you never know. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be afraid. The worst they can do is say no, but it's worth it because they'll probably say yes.
Awesome. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I would like to ask you, in your life, so it's more like a little bit personal questions. We talked a bit about it and about faith and the plan of God.
Yes.
How has it been for you and your journey in faith? And what role God has planned in your life?
Yeah, so it is foundational to everything that I do and everything that I am, realizing that God does have this great plan in store for all of us, and we are not responsible for the outcome of that plan. We're responsible to be faithful in whatever we are doing as that plan may or may not unfold. And to me, that gives a peace in life that I would never have otherwise, knowing that I'm responsible to be faithful, to do well and right at what I'm called to do now, and then allow God to use that in whatever way he sees fit as an outcome.
Thank you so much. Have you been if do you mind me asking, have you been Christian most of your life?
20 years ago, actually, this year is when I first heard a clear presentation of the gospel of Jesus Christ and accepted him as my Savior. And so the first 2/3 of my life or so, I did not, though I knew about Christianity. And it was only 20 years ago or so that I heard that clear presentation of the gospel and accepted Christ as my Savior.
Wonderful. Well, praise God, and that is so great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to ask you, I think I saw you have a ministry and you're about to make another book about a little bit about Christianity also. Can you let us know a bit about that and about your other book?
Yeah, so let me start with the
Yes,
first book.
yes.
So I wrote Boom, Leadership That Breaks Barriers, Challenges Convention, and Ignites Innovation. I published it about 8 months ago. It's on Amazon. It's an Amazon #1 bestseller, and you can check it out. And it really shows people of all types and all types of leaders, young and old, how we can break down barriers in our organizations and our lives and achieve innovation and success. And that's doing very well, and I speak a lot about that. But then in America, our election season is coming up in a few months. Clearly, it's a very unique time in American history. And so I'm writing a 90-day Christian devotional, especially tailored for around our election season, how Christians can be the right type of citizens in a world that sometimes can seem so confusing and so dark. And that should come out in about a month. It will be available on Amazon as well. And you can also ultimately reach me. I'm prolific on LinkedIn, so check me out there. And then johnteichert.com is my personal website, and you can follow me there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. What about prayer life? And I saw on your website you had this prayer lunch break. And how has it been for you? And when you were in the service, after you became a Christian, when you were doing all those amazing things like being a commander, had Tess Edwards and Andrews both. How was it? And how were you able to live your faith? Being with other military members that sometimes don't believe in God, and how has it been for you?
Yeah, so a few answers to that. The first one is I do have this prayer ministry that I started 11 years ago. It's called Plus, Prayer at Lunchtime for the United States. And it encourages Christian citizens to pray for our nation and our leaders daily, because we certainly need it, and it's the right thing to do. But I have found that my faith is a fundamental part of who I am. And I shouldn't try to hide it, because then I would be lacking integrity. And I think people can see the way that I lead in genuine care and concern for the people around me as a manifestation of my faith, because it is. And I love being a leader primarily because I can help people become the best possible version of themselves. And I love doing that in a way that exudes genuine care and concern for that member and their family. And my faith is a fundamental part of why I care so much about people or love people. And it is a way that I can demonstrate through my leadership role in a secular environment in the military, my faith in the way that I lead.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. We still have a few minutes, but maybe one of my last few questions would be about innovation and leadership. How has it been throughout your career, and what about now? How up to now?
Yeah, one of the things that I talk about a lot in my book is a cycle as a leader that I call the listen, consider, and act cycle. Because leaders at any level, whether you command 11 people or lead 11 people or 11,000, like I did at Edwards Air Force Base when I commanded there a few years ago, is that you as a leader aren't expected to be the idea guy or the idea gal. It means you might not even be very creative as a leader. But if you have a team around you and you harness the ideas from that team in the right way by listening, considering, and acting, then now it's not you making the innovation ideas, but you unlocking the talent of your individuals and unleashing the skills of your team that give you this multiplicative effect that allows you to break barriers, challenge convention, and ignite innovation.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. It makes a lot of sense, and it's great to hear that from you. I would like to ask you a question about flying and about chair flying, and how has it been for you when you were younger, like learning to fly UPT. Yes, how has it been? Chair flying has been for you at the beginning in UPT, and how has been UPT for you also, and some tools to succeed? Because I've heard it's pretty hard, and like to be selected as a pilot, you have to be the best of your class. So I know it's my situation, but sometimes I sell myself short. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can be the smartest. I don't know if I can be at the top of my class. Um, so yeah, what advice would you have for that for people like me or
Yep.
people who are looking?
Yeah, so part of it is time management. How do you manage your time and how do you invest it? But also, people are looking to include people on their team that are selfless team players. And I think even through going through pilot training or going through your own flight training, that we succeed not as individuals but together. And so don't see life as a competition. That you may be very competitive. I certainly am. But see life as an opportunity to help other people achieve their goals. And if you do that, then you become the type of person that others want on their team, and it becomes good for you and everybody else around you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think it's gonna be probably my last question, but well, I still have a few questions, but again, I know we have a timing to respect, which is about, well, or you can pick the one you prefer. But one of the question I may have for you is being a female in the military. The military and aviation also is a big male-dominated field. So that would be one of my questions. What you think about it? And the other question would be, what do you think about discipline?
Okay, so let me really focus on the female aviator question. My wife was in the Air Force. She wasn't an aviator, but she was in the Air Force as a personnelist and then as a chemist. She teaches at the Naval Academy now. And then I am thrilled that my oldest daughter is going into the Air Force. She's a rising senior in ROTC at Baylor University. And I realize that historically it has been a male-dominated field, but we need talented, patriotic Americans to flood into our military And we can't exclude or be myopic to believe that we should only look at half of the population. We need to look at the entirety of the population. And I know my wife was an incredible officer in the Air Force. I know that my daughter is going to be phenomenal at whatever she does. And I just want to encourage you, if you're a young female, to realize that the opportunities are so great for you now. And I look forward then to seeing you succeed in areas that I could only have dreamed of because of the opportunities that are available now for all of our countrymen in the Air Force or the Marine Corps or the Navy or the Army. And I just would encourage you to jump in and serve our great country and do something with your life that matters. Whether you are male or female, know that it is possible, and we need you in our ranks.
Awesome, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, John. I think it's about time. So it was such a pleasure to have you on the show, especially right now at Oshkosh. It is such a pleasure and a blessing, and that is awesome. And I look forward to seeing you again at your book signing or any other engagement you have tomorrow, the next days. And it was awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, I would just thank you so much, and you did a great job in this interview. It was fun and it was informational. And any of your listeners, if there's ever anything that I can do for you, you can track me down on my website. And I would encourage you, please do reach out, and I would love to see what I can do to help you. And hopefully I've been a little bit of a help today, but you've been a blessing to me, and so thank you.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, John. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.